Well, hey everyone, it's Jeff and Jamie, and we're back with you again.
Good morning, good afternoon, good day,
Good day, good evening,
Good
whichever
evening,
it is, wherever you are in the world.
whatever time of day you're listening.
Yeah, and as we delineated last week or the week before, I forgot, is how many
Last
listeners
time.
how many listeners we have all over the world.
Which is fun. More people. That's kind of fun to think about.
Yeah, we have more streakers joining us all the time.
I
So you're
know.
not alone out there. We've got that community of streakers that are
Community's
happening.
starting to grow.
Hey, the app continues to move along, and we're almost
We got
there.
some really great feedback this time with the beta testers that they were excited. So when you get the chance to read the book, part of what's in the book is there's exercises at the end of each chapter that help you go through the process
Right.
and we've gotten some great feedback that people want those exercises in the app as well to
Yeah.
keep them aligned, to be able to go back and review what they've learned as they went through those.
Right.
So,
One of the things we talk about in the book is having a streaking journal. And it's almost what I hear them saying is I almost want that streaking journal inside
In
the
the
app
app.
so that it's there. Those exercises, those things that we do are there so that I can reference back to them or get a little bit more clarity around them
Right.
or whatever it is.
so we don't know what that's going to look like yet, but that was some really great feedback to and exciting for me to look at and think, okay, people want more of in the app of reminding myself what I've learned about myself, what I've decided, what I've kind of am looking at, who I want to be. I want that more accessible so I can review it and be reminded.
Which I think is a great thing because I look at some of the things that I've kept record of and written down and so forth. And it would be nice to have it contained within the application, which, by the way, is backed up and stored and all of
Right.
those things. Because one of the things we talk about is when the app goes live, this was one of your fears.
Yes.
And one of mine as well. The app goes live and someone is 361 days into a streak and we get a DEFCON 5.
Something crashes and we lose. Oh my gosh,
And
it'd be
all the
worst.
streaks are gone. That would be awful. So the great part is Dave and the developers. Isn't that kind of a fun
I know,
title?
Dave and the developers.
Dave and the developers.
They're not a band yet.
They are a band.
They're a
They
band of developers.
They just play code.
Playing code.
And they are phenomenal. But the data center that we have behind this and all the servers and all the backups and everything else are quite significant because we don't want people to lose their streaks.
No, that would be, it's the
that's
worst.
valuable information.
Yes.
And that's what honestly, one of the reasons why we've taken quite a bit of time to release or to look at and say, here's the app, but we're waiting to make sure to get it out there, is because we want to have all of these facilities in place so that as people get streaking and they've got 1,677 days underneath their belt of a particular streak, where it's backed up, it's saved, it's
Right.
stored. The other thing too that I love is the other thing that we're finding with beta testers is their kids all want to get on the app.
Yes.
Have you noticed that?
Yes, I have noticed that. In fact, we put our kids on, we did a couple of them on an iPad, and
Yeah.
they have loved it.
Oh, and the iPad looks beautiful.
The iPad does look beautiful.
The thing that I love about it is it's simple in its form. Now, one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that we've committed to is that we are not going to have any just pop-up ads come
We're
up
not
on
having
there.
any ads in the app.
We
Nope.
don't. We may have community ads later on, which basically, as you join a community, say, of writers, there may be things that are specific to writers that you want information about. And so
Right.
the community then determines.
That's me. I want it to eventually be a place where we can have a community page where you can ask the people that are doing what you're doing about products they use or advice or something along those lines.
Because we
where-
do find that, like, for example, your designing streak, what you do with
Yes.
designing.
I would love to know different different books that people have read or different stores that they shop at or different, I would love that community aspect of
Mm-hmm.
the learning. And so some of that'll be products, some of it'll be advice, some of it'll be
Yeah.
experiences. I don't know what that looks like exactly, but eventually that's what I want.
And I think,
I want that as part of that community.
as do I, because there's other things that I look at. For example, with read a paragraph in a nonfiction book. In the community of people that are reading the paragraph or whatever it is, I'd love to have just recommendations.
What
Just read
books
this
are you
great
reading?
book or
Yes,
whatever this is.
exactly.
And there's book clubs and everything else that are out there. The thing that I love about this is I'm exactly with the people who want to do that particular streak.
Exactly.
And we've talked about this before, the different levels of community. The first being the core community, which is we all share streaks, like you and I share streaks, but not all of them are in common.
Right.
It's not the same
Right.
streak. And then you've got the next level of community, which is the streaking
Community. People
community.
that are doing your same streaks.
Exactly.
That group of people.
And that group, that's where I think that there's going to be a lot of fun things that will come through there
Yeah.
because I get to learn from them
and
what
a
they're
lot
doing.
a lot of information exchange, a lot of learning going on. I agree.
So that's also coming in the app. Again, we're talking like versions 2
down the
or
road.
3 down
I
the
think
road.
last time we talked about we've got big plans.
Big plans.
Big plans.
And I look at it and say, isn't it neat that we can start with a version and then it gets more rich and more vibrant as we go
Right,
along?
as we go.
However, back to our point, we want to maintain the simplicity of it. Not only maintain the simplicity, but we do not want to make it something that is populated with ads.
No, we
and
want
all
it
of
to
that.
stay focused on a very personal experience with you and what you're doing to become who you want to be.
Which led me back to why children want to be on it. And the children, we found that when we added Bowen on the iPad, he's like, he loves
He's
it.
excited about
He's
it.
excited about it.
He's excited.
And I know another of our beta testers, they also have their children on it. In fact, we were talking to the beta tester. Hi, Matt. You're our streaker that we're talking about. And he has his children actually with, he has stacks on his
for each of his kids.
And so they have to come grab his phone and check him off. And he's like, I can't do this anymore. They've got to
They've got to have their
iPad.
own. They've
Right.
got to have their own version of that.
So he's going to do that as well.
So.
And you get to share those things. I know we need to get onto the thing. that
No,
we're gonna talk
because
about.
you promised last time you were going to share what your streak was.
I did.
I don't know if anybody
Absolutely.
heard last time, but last time he was talking, he said, I shared something honest about my B statement. He's like, oh, I've got something I want to share. I've started. Oh, look, we're running out of time.
Isn't that just rude?
You didn't say what
I
it
know.
was.
What we were talking about last time, just to bring everyone up to speed, was you started streaking first. Which came first, the streak or the B statement?
Right.
And for us, the streak came first. And then you have the B statement that supports why I streak. And that is the true governor of what I do.
What I do, because it's the why.
So one of my B statements, one portion of my B statement. My B statement it has some length to it. Let's put
does.
it that way. And one of the sentences in my B statement is, I want to be a fantastic father. Now that's aspirational. Not even close to that yet. Working on it.
You're doing great, though.
Well, thank you.
Keep
hon.
working on it.
I
You're
sure appreciate
awesome.
that. I'm going to keep working on it because I want to be involved with my kids' life, and I want to be engaged in what it is they're doing. One of the streaks that I've maintained now for, I think I'm in the 1700s. I'll have to look at it. 13 to 1700s is contact one of my children daily. Mm-hmm. Right?
Okay.
You know this streak.
Yes.
I've been there, right? Well, since COVID happened, I've noticed that it's laughably simple. Where I was traveling before, it was still simple because contact was as simple as write a text and say, I love you.
Right.
And
But you're home more now. You're actually
I'm home all the time.
Yes.
I'm physically here. And so as soon as I wake up in the morning, I go down the hall, I'm contacting one of my children.
Right.
And so I found that where it was serving me, I was able to check that off. And I'm great with that. I'm great with just checking the box because what that tells me is I'm mindful about what it is that I'm doing.
I love that word, mindful. Every day you're mindful and consciously having that be a part of your conscious day.
So as I thought about it, and I've been thinking about this now for the last couple of months, I thought I'm going to start a new streak.
Okay.
And the new streak is, it's really close to the streak I already have, but it is a new streak. So the streak I have of contact one child daily, now I've started a new streak, which is connect with one child daily.
Really?
Now I know it sounds almost the same, but it's actually a little bit different.
No, I was actually going to ask, how do you define connect? Like, how are you going to
And
define that within
Thank you for asking that question.
You're welcome.
Because I thought a lot about that.
Yeah.
How do I define when I've connected with one of my children? One of the things I've found is when a child comes home from school or in the morning, my mind is on 100 different things that I want to be doing or need to be doing for work or for around the house or any of those things.
Right.
And so I'll ask a child a question, but I really won't listen to the answer.
Okay.
I'll hear what they say and say, "Oh, that's great," and keep going about my business.
Right.
So I contacted them.
Right.
But
you
I
made
didn't-
contact.
But in my mind, I didn't really connect. And so
Okay.
connection for me is when I ask the question, for example, and I did this yesterday with Chance, what was one subject that you really enjoyed in school today?
I heard you ask that
Did you hear
question.
me ask that question? And I didn't do anything else. I listened to his answer. And I felt, and so for me, I was connecting with him. Now, whether or not he connected with me, I don't know.
Right.
But for me,
you,
I listened to his answer and I asked a follow-up question, because he said PE right out of the chute.
And that's why I remember that question, because I was like, why is every child's favorite subject
PE?
Maybe it isn't every child. Maybe it's just our children. I don't know. But it seems to be a common answer.
So this connection now is just one step deeper. And one of the things we talk about, and you and I have talked about quite a bit, is stepping up a streak.
Right.
And I believe that, so I haven't always connected with our children. I've always contacted them, but I haven't been as consistent with the connection. And I'll have you know, I added, I want to connect. So this is the actual streak. I want to connect with at least one of my children or grandchildren.
Ooh.
Daily. I'm not making any announcements. And no, our children did not
You're just
tell
looking
us anything.
ahead.
I'm just looking ahead and saying, I want to be able to connect with at least one of my children or grandchildren daily. What do you think?
That's awesome. I've had a couple thoughts. One, I've thought, this is what I love about streaking, is that you can add action behind these things that we want to be. So you're like, I want to connect with my children. That's a hard thing to define sometimes, but you've added a way to kind of measure that.
Mm-hmm.
I think of another one of our streakers that said, she's like, I want to be a kind person. But we've talked a lot about goals. How do you measure kindness? And being able to have a streak where you're doing something behind that each day, you can start to have measurement.
Mm-hmm. And she does. She has a measurement behind that, a thing that she does every single day in order to become a
kind person. Yeah. And so I love that.
So that's what it's now, I think, I don't know how many days old, whatever number of days, 6 or 7 days old.
So that's the other thing that I love as you were talking is the way that once you start streaking, you start to gain confidence in things. And I love that it's reminding us every day to look at who we are, and we're evaluating in a very conscious way,
right,
who we want to be.
Yeah.
The other question we were going to answer that we talked a little bit about last time was...
Hold on, just before you go there, just real quickly. I haven't given up the other streak yet, though.
Okay, so you've kept the contact.
Just for right now. I think I will retire that one.
You do?
Yeah.
And have it be...
But the interesting thing about it is if I go back to... It's not that... I mean, I can retire it specifically. However, let's say, for example, I don't connect with a child, but I contact a child. It's like I can resurrect it. But because I'm still contacting a child, even though I haven't connected with them.
Right.
But one of the reasons I haven't retired it yet, but I may want to retire it because I want to take that next step up. And now the connection is really the thing that takes the precedence.
Right.
And it's still, in my mind, it's still laughably simple because it's just a question and listening to the answer.
It's just, right.
I mean, that's really all it is. Ask Bowen, Chance, Lily, Megan, Mark, Noah, any of the children. Yes, there is a long list of them.
Yes. Ask any of them.
Any of them a question and really listen to the answer.
Right.
That is connection to me. So just a little side note though, but you were going down the path of...
Well, we had talked about, how do you decide when you've got all of these things that you want to be? That was one of the questions that we had last week was...
Yeah, Emily.
Emily said...
Great streaker out there.
I'm looking at my B statement and she said, I've got like 25,000 things I want to be. How do I narrow this down? How do I know where to start?
Right.
Is kind of what I felt like she was asking. And it was such a good question. And I thought about it for a while. And it was interesting because the way that it evolved for us, like we talked about last time, I had already had quite a few streaks before I sat down and started looking at a B statement. And so I thought about it and I thought, well, how did I decide where to start? And for me, there were some things, and this is what I answered Emily with, is I said, there were some things in my life that really were bothering me that I felt like I really want to be doing these things. And for me, it was read to the boys. I'm like, I really am feeling like I need to be
So you
reading.
started with more of a do, what I need to do.
Yes. What
not
do I need to
necessarily
do?
a
Something
why
that
I
had
need to
been
do something.
bothering me. Something that like, I'm like, we used the word niggle last time, but it was in the back of my brain oftentimes that I'm like, this is really something that I feel that I need to be doing and I'm not consistently doing. So mine started with that process. I've also talked to my other daughter, though, that she struggled with being able to start with a B statement or with streaks. She was like, I can't think about the streaks I want to do. For me, it's easier to be like, okay, this is who I want to be.
Right.
And so it can go both ways. And that's kind of what I love of when you look at where do I start, pick one or two of those things. I think we each have one or two things that's like, okay, this one really is.
So if I wanted to start with my B statement, where would you recommend I start? I mean, if I'm like, I need to start with a B statement, how would you look at that and say, okay, well, here's some couple thoughts or suggestions just based on our experience?
How would I start with a B statement? I guess looking around and evaluating, taking it really simple and thinking, well, who do I want to be? And maybe starting with something simple, whether that's, well, I want to be healthy, or if something maybe there's one thing that comes at the very beginning where you're like, I want to be kind. Like there might be, and start there, just start with one sentence that's like, well, I want to be this. How would you start it? Because I started, like I said, I started more with streaks and it took me longer to develop a B statement.
Yeah.
You developed a B statement long before I did.
I think that one of the things that I look at as far as a B statement is concerned is there's broad category of B statement. For example, I think I want to be healthy is pretty broad.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of different things that I can do to be healthy. One of my more narrow part of the B statement is I want to be a engaging, energizing, enthusiastic, entertaining, thought-provoking, persuasive leader, speaker, teacher, and writer. And actually, I have a little bit more in there. It's I want to be of service to others.
Why do you consider that more narrow?
Because it goes now around a very specific area as far as my profession is concerned.
Life. Okay.
And I'm narrowed right in on my profession. I think, for example, I want to be a fantastic father is a little bit broad, but it's still focused in on one role in my life.
That's true. Okay.
And that may be one of the things that I look at is how do I craft a B statement? Well, there's 4 areas of life that I look at that you can craft a B statement around. I look at your personal life, your professional life, your spiritual life,
right,
and your, what was I thinking, social life, I think is what it was. Hold on, physical life.
Physical. That's what I was going to say, physical.
Yeah, because personal is more the social, but the physical. Those are the 4 areas I look at for myself and say, who do I want to be in each of those? Now, there may be one part of my life that I don't necessarily have a B statement identified there, and that's okay.
Right.
Others, I may have it very specifically called out because I have great aspirations to be there, and I want to be mindful, conscientious that I am always growing toward being that person.
Right. I love that. So maybe people could start with a brainstorm, and this is one of the exercises that's in the book, where you brainstorm who you feel like you currently are. Mm-hmm. And then you can brainstorm, well, who do I want to be? Or you could brainstorm, well, what things do I want to do? What things have I been thinking about that I want to be a part of my life each day?
What should I be doing? What do I want to be doing on a regular daily basis?
And if you just let yourself kind of write those things down, that'll get you started on your journey of deciding, okay, who do I really want to be here?
Right.
And the thing that I look at that is the valuable part is that just doing that is intentional, which is a huge part of what we're trying to accomplish with the streaking methodology, is
Absolutely.
That act of being intentional.
As I look at, and one of the things we've developed over time is the growth model. Mm-hmm. And inside of the growth model is all of the different tools that you have at your beck and call. And what I mean by tools is you've got habits and routines,
right,
streaks, and goals. And all of those are those are tools that you can use in your growth, in what it is that you do. As we talk about streaks, what I really have enjoyed for myself, and you've illustrated this and also detailed it on our podcast in other ways, is that I'm being mindful of these things every day. In other words, growth, I don't think is ever a habit. It's not a habit. Growth is not a habit. It's not automatic. It's not
more
something
of a
that
choice.
just happens. It is a choice every single day. And through streaking, I choose who I want to be every single day.
Right.
And that's really cool.
It is really cool.
That you said, I think it was last week, about how powerful that is, as far as, I guess, unlocking the B statement, because that's
Yes.
the governor, but growing toward
Growing towards that. And that's what I've loved about it. So I guess what I want to do is encourage people wherever you start, whether it's starting with a streak and then using that streak to help you define who you want to be, or whether it comes easy to you to be like, no, I know who I want to be. Now, what do I need to do?
Mm-hmm.
Wherever you start, I don't know that matters as much as that you just start.
That you start.
Yep.
That you start doing it.
You just start.
And that is key and crucial. I mean, start on one end of that.
Yep. And as you start, then you've started that journey, and it will progress, and you will get thousands of days into it, and you may think, I want to connect with my children.
Yeah. Very true. Hey, very well put.
Yeah.
Which brings me to, as we start about talking about starting, as far as one of my greatest streaking fears.
Oh, what's that?
I think I'll wait to share that, because
So
we're
that's
right at the end.
You're liking this end on a little cliff note
Well,
thing, aren't you?
I figured it's one of those things where we've got the opportunity. We've been consistent now at delivering a podcast for quite some time.
Yeah, we are. So we're
we
getting
don't have
better.
it as an official streak. Should we put it as one?
Boy, just ask me that on the air, don't you? That just goes to show that you really have to think, do I want to make this a streak? That's a commitment.
And why, though? Why is it a commitment?
Because
what
I'm
is it
going to
about it?
hold myself to that commitment.
I think it is so interesting to feel the way we feel now, because I am tentative. I haven't purposely set this as a streak. Well, we'll talk about our greatest streaking fear, and also this whole concept of why we get a little bit tentative to start a new streak next week.
Time.
Should we?
On our next podcast.
Our next podcast. So until that time, have a wonderful, fantastic week. And if you want to ask a streaking question or tell us a streaking story, we'd love to hear it. You can do that at Jeffrey, Jefffery, at streakingmastery.com.
Or at Jamie, Jami, at streakingmastery.com.
Well, until we talk to you again,
Keep
streaking.
They say, but I can show you a simpler way. It's the small and simple things that make the life we live worth living. Among the rush, do one push up, become a better you. It's the small and simple things that make you grow into what you're hoping. You're in a hurry, don't even worry. It's too simple not to do. It's the little things that make a better you. A better you.